Hello listeners, we've partnered with ClassicFootballShirts.com where you can get your classic, rare, retro, vintage football shirts for your football team of your choice. I recommend a Parma kit. You know, there's some lovely options on the website. There's a referral link on our Twitter or in the description of the YouTube video. Click there, follow it through and enjoy. I say Parma, get it on you, it looks lovely. They're from the 90s. Ooh. Listeners, hello, welcome back for the Fan Show, back again. It's a new year, it's a new day, and we're feeling good. It's been a new year for a little while now, hasn't it? But you know,
this is the third episode of the new year.
We're almost out of January. I'm not sure you can.
It's been an awful year for Liverpool. We'll talk about that later on. Jack, hi.
Hello, yeah. Someone mentioned on Twitter that this is the quarterly podcast. Like we do one show like every 3 months.
Good.
Third show of the month.
Yeah, less of that.
I did the number crunching. We've averaged over a show every other week, which with international breaks and our own incompetence over the winter break, I don't think it's that bad.
That's pretty good. We're also joined, as ever, by Keno. Hi, Callum.
Good evening. Oh, dated it.
Are you all right? Everything good?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, good.
All right, good. No Pridey this week, listeners. After the demand to not have him on, we've succumbed to that, and we won't be seeing him again until probably next week, actually.
We had to listen to the people on that one.
Might be back. Anyway, now I've previewed this week's feature to Jack only, and I've told Keno he's going to hate it. Now, this week's feature revolves around FIFA. Ting.
Is it going to be a higher or lower?
No, not quite.
Well, I've got FIFA knowledge. I thought it was going to be a Football Manager one, in which case I would have been totally...
Yeah. What we're going to do, boys, is I'm going to list you the stats of a player on their Ultimate Team card within the Premier League, and you're going to tell me, fastest finger first, who it is. Now, I should say, if you come in, you then can't come in until the other person's had a guess. But, you're going to have the option to do so after every stat.
I'm sighing as much as proud of you as we build up to this.
I've got you can't see it, beaming smile on my face.
So after every stat, you can have a guess if you want, essentially. But and the first person to get it gets it. But I will take the first answer of the person if they think they know it. Okay.
I don't want to preface this with the fact I do have a Premier League team on Ultimate Team. So if I fail here,
So good luck, Keno, is what we're saying here. Right, player number 1 has got 40 defending. Any guesses?
It's Premier League players, yeah?
All Premier League players,
okay,
yeah. We're a Premier League podcast. 63 passing. So obviously you've got players in mind at this point, I think.
Mm-hmm. There's a big list.
75 pace.
Ooh, not as quick as I would have expected.
No. No guesses so far, interestingly. 88 physical.
I think I might know who it is. Do I want to go in? I think I'm going to go in.
Jack?
Ibrahimovic is my guess.
It's incorrect, and the next
I would imagine his passing would be a bit better than that, wouldn't it?
77 dribbling.
Was it 88 physical, Ben, that you just
said?
It
was 88 physical, 77 dribbling. Jack, I've revealed another stat, so you can come in after this again if you want.
Okay.
Unless Keenan wants to guess here.
You
might as well at this point.
Diego Costa.
Point, Callum King.
Hey!
With 82 shooting. I should say, for those that aren't familiar with FIFA Ultimate Team, they have cards: pace, shooting, passing, dribbling, defending, physical. I'm just reading them out in different orders. But point to Keno. What a turn up for the books. Wasn't expecting
probably get
that.
Sponsored by Ultimate Team, shouldn't we?
They've got enough money. They're good sponsors. They've got so much money. Right, next, 87 dribbling.
Okay, good dribbler.
Stop.
Oh my.
David Silva.
Incorrect.
No.
87 passing. I know. Stunning. 77 pace.
I feel like that guess was quite a good one. Now I've heard what's...
42 defending. Oh.
What was the pace again, Ben?
77. 78. Go on.
A slightly slow playmaker. Christian Eriksen?
Incorrect. 78 shooting.
Stop. I think I might know who this is.
Jack?
Is it Payet?
Point for Work the Space. Well done, Jack.
It's when you said slow playmaker. I remembered I had Payet in my team.
Well done.
And there's really high dribbling and passing.
Had Mesut Ozil in my mind.
Well done to you. Right, next player then. 66 shooting.
Probably a defender.
40 defending.
Oh, God. Never mind.
Okay, can I take a guess?
Sure.
Actually, no, I don't want to take a guess.
I mean,
Okay.
that's your guess.
56 physical. We're painting a picture here.
What does this player do?
71 passing.
Claudio Bravo?
Incorrect.
Thinking outside the box a little bit?
83 dribbling.
Oh, no.
No one's coming in. And 92 pace.
Okay, I think I know who this is.
Jack?
Is it Markovic?
Point.
How? No.
He's just
No
returned
way.
to the Premier League.
I had Markovic because I have a Liverpool team.
Listeners,
I'm one of those
I mean,
saddos who has like the full Liverpool team. And I remember looking at Markovic and he was just on the bench for me because he just
Listeners.
runs in straight lines.
Okay,
Listeners, you
okay.
can
Jack,
sympathise with me
Jack,
on
well,
this
no.
one.
The problem I have with this, Kino, is that Jack has just done a lie because Markovic hasn't been a Liverpool player on FIFA this year because he was at Sporting.
Has he
No,
got,
he's-
has he got FIFA open?
He could have.
I literally haven't got FIFA open.
I mean, I can't believe the quiz has been called into question.
Jack's just called himself a sado on air, listeners, so, you know,
Basically.
you're on my side.
Anyway, you get the point.
I should say, my Liverpool team does also have Michael Owen in it. Like, it's a Liverpool team past and
I
present.
mean, at least he actually isn't like assigned somewhere else.
I know, yeah.
Anyway, next one.
That's true.
66 pace. 64 dribbling. 79 physical.
Maybe a centre-back.
70 passing. 86 defending. 58 shooting.
I'll take a guess at...
Go on.
Sort of a... Nemanja Matic, I think maybe.
Incorrect, I'm
defensive
afraid. I will
midfielder.
go through the stats again, though. 66 pace, 58 shooting, 70 passing, 64 dribbling, 86 defending, and 79 physical.
I guess I'll have a stab in the dark.
Go on, then. Otherwise, I'm getting the point.
Kante. No, it can't be Kante. That's far too low. Xhaka.
Incorrect. It's an 85 centre-back from Tottenham who's Belgian. It's actually Toby Alderweireld.
That's quite... I feel...
A bit slow for me, in my opinion. But,
For the best centre-half in the Premier League this year, probably.
Yeah.
Just stick a
harsh.
shadow on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had. I mean, I should say he's had an informed card, which is ever so slightly improved, but even still, it's not that good. Okay, next one then. 69 pace, 81 dribbling, 77 shooting, 68 defending, 80 passing, and 76 physical.
This is a really bang average player, isn't it?
He's a very bang average player. 69 pace, 81 dribbling, that's quite good, and 80 passing is also quite good. 77 shooting, 76 physical, 68 defending.
Probably an older player from the sounds of that. Like someone past their best.
Well, you both have a guess.
Wish I could think of a player who it could suit.
What position are you thinking?
I'll go Charlie Adam.
Okay, Kino, I'm going to let you have a guess before we reveal who it could be.
That's funny because I had like a Glenn Whelan in mind. I
All
don't
right,
know.
shall we go with those two? What a partnership.
Stoke midfield.
The correct answer is 84 rated Aaron Ramsey.
Sorry, Aaron.
Past his best, Jack said. So, harsh. I'll take the point. Next one then. Oh, yes, we'll go for this player. Oh, actually, that's very similar to what we
This is
discussed.
really hard.
It is
quite
really
hard.
hard,
Okay,
yeah.
next one then.
Ben may win a feature for the first time.
I know, I'm currently drawing first. 65 shooting, 73 passing, 83 physical, 76 defending, 79 dribbling, and 84 pace.
What was the passing and dribbling stats?
So pace 84, dribbling 79, shooting 65, defending 76, 73 passing, and 83 physicality.
I'll say Kante.
Okay. I mean,
Sounds
you
like
have a guess, mate.
Kante-esque player.
I mean, can you say whether that's right or wrong yet?
That's incorrect.
I have the disadvantage of the fact I have Kante's special card, so I don't know what his normal card's
good.
like.
I'm glad-
Woe is you,
First
Jack.
of all,
I'm glad you
problems.
he's got so many coins, everyone. Are you jealous? Has he been buying them?
If you want to go to FIFACoinspot.com,
Stop this.
buy your coins.
Kino.
Right, where Jack's editing and he can take that out.
Use the discount code. And that isn't an actual site as far as I know.
Cheapening us there. Kino,
Go to
guess.
ForTheFansShow.com and maybe do it. I don't know.
Glenn Whelan. Just say Glenn Whelan every time. It's
Glenn
eventually going to be
Whelan.
right.
Yeah.
Correct answer is Glenn Whelan. No, it's not. It's Antonio Valencia, actually.
If there was one that was Glenn Whelan, I'm out of it. That's the end of the show.
Tricky card with Valencia because he's got quite good sort of right mid stats, but he's also got quite good defensive stats.
Is he a right back this year?
He's right back this year. Yeah, strange, isn't it?
I always use Kyle Walker over him.
Okay, we're gonna do two more.
Thank God for that.
69 pace, 68 dribbling, 60 passing, 31 defending, 84 physical, and 78 shooting. So you've got quite a slow striker on your
shoot.
Okay, stop.
Callum.
Is it Jermaine Defoe?
Incorrect.
He has more pace than
Slightly
that.
quicker Defoe.
I'll go with everyone's favourite, Anichebe.
No, the correct answer, and I will say now, spoilers, I've won the week's feature with one to go, is Troy Deeney, actually.
We were in the right kind of area.
Yeah, you're close enough, sort of average Premier striker. All right, final one.
I feel like this is really hard, and if you'd given us like the club or the position, we might have more of a chance.
All right, this player plays in the Premier League.
Thanks for that.
89 pace, 84 dribbling, 69 shooting, 30 defending, 68 passing, and 68 physical. So a pacey dribbler. That's what we're looking
I'll
at.
come in here. Oxlade-Chamberlain?
Incorrect.
That's a good guess.
And to level it up with Jack and take us to a tie break.
It's no.
For a pacey dribbler, 69 shooting, 68 passing, 68 physical. Poor defending.
Wayne Routledge.
No, we're close though, boys. I'm going to say no. We are very close. The correct answer is Wilfred Zaha. Oh, he's scarily good. It says here.
I did have Zaha in my mind.
Can we have a tiebreaker anyway? When to sacrifice?
Jack, I don't know about you. I don't know if I
tie-
want
can-
one, mate.
Can the tiebreaker be that you name a player and a stat, and we have to whoever gets closest to that actual player's stat in game?
What do you mean?
So you could go Xhaka, guess his defending.
We're taking showtime to work out.
Okay, yeah, sure. All right, Jack, we will do that.
I'm willing to give you a chance here, Callum. I feel bad because you've been mocked.
I mean, I've won the
floor
feature,
with
so I'm a
this
bit
year.
annoyed. I might win this.
You've lost as well, Jack. No one's a winner here.
I am the winner here. Sorry, listeners, just to clarify, I am the winner here. Okay, the player is John Stones. What is his defending?
79.
84.
78 is the answer. Should we do another tie break to give Kino a chance, Jack?
That
Are
was
we done?
quite good. We should have done this as the feature.
Yeah,
Right.
this is more fun.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. The next week feature FIFA cards again. They're back. We would have done trivia this week, but I realised that we've gone through a lot of the questions. Right, let's talk about some football then. It was Premier League action last weekend. The way we're going to structure this week is we're going to talk a little bit about what happened last weekend and then preview what's to come. There's some FA Cup action and some Premier League happening next week, Liverpool-Chelsea. So stay tuned for that chatter. And actually, that's where we're going to start. It was Liverpool 2, Swansea 3. And I don't feel like this season, Jack, we've spoken much about Liverpool being dreadful. But this year, really, pretty dreadful.
I feel like we've not actually spoken about Liverpool that much compared to last year, where every other week it was Rodgers out.
Yeah, I don't think we have really. I feel like we've been a lot more. I mean,
I
not much has happened. We've just done all right.
I had this thought in my head that every show that we do, we should mark down the teams we talk about. So if a team hasn't been talked about in a while, we have to talk about them.
Well, how about the listeners could go and check that out? Listen to some of the past shows.
Or Jack, as a member of the show, you can just note that down as we record.
I mean, that's too logical, isn't
Okay,
it?
fine.
Then we don't get extra listens. So
But no,
What is going on here, Jack? Liverpool.
It was a very Liverpool performance of the last month or so. It's been a weird run for Liverpool, really, because they've gone from being a team at the top. I don't know if many people would have been saying title contenders, but like they were up there, and you've got to be up there to do well. But obviously, there was kind of always the aspect that Mane was going to be going to the African Cup of Nations, and that was lingering over. Obviously, Coutinho got injured, a big kind of heavy run of fixtures.
Yeah.
And this game, I want to say it kind of typifies, I guess, like how Liverpool have played over the recent few games. You go back even to kind of the FA Cup game where they kind of scraped through in the end against Plymouth. It's just
battered Plymouth 1-0. That was good.
It's just been more
at
of the
the
same,
second
really.
attempt. At the second attempt.
Oh, we're just toying with him. That's toying with him that first game. It's interesting because obviously great win for Swansea, which to say that off the bat. Great win for Swansea, much needed as well.
Yeah.
And they've looked a lot better, Keno, Swansea.
I mean, we were sort of chatting about this game while it was happening, and it was one of my favourite performances of recent months. I think from Swansea, because it was just such a huge contrast to what we've seen all year, and Clement didn't look as though, other than obviously giving them a lot of belief, and he's made a couple of good transfers, which I'll talk about in a minute. There wasn't that much different, other than the level of organisation that you could see. Yeah. Obviously, he hasn't had a huge amount of time with the Swansea players yet, but the defensive shape that they showed throughout the game was really, really impressive. They were almost they were shuffling from kind of left to right in kind of 10-yard little increments as a group of 10 players. And I mean, for any team, it would have been quite difficult to break down, let alone a Liverpool team obviously missing quite a few of their best players, and obviously Coutinho coming back from an injury. I thought one of the most impressive things really was the way in which they managed to go and get that third goal. We'll start with Swansea first, then we'll get on to Liverpool. I think what was most impressive was that, you're playing Liverpool away from home, you've had a terrible, awful season, and you've got a tough game away from home. You're 2-0 up and things are going well, and then when Roberto Firmino scored that fantastic second goal, I mean, you wouldn't have found a fan in the stadium that didn't think Liverpool would have gone on to win it, or at least be the team that finished the game on top. When in fact, it was incredible to see a team like that rally and actually go and nick it, which I think says a huge amount for what Clement's been able to do to the team spirit in such a short amount of time. I was incredibly impressed with them, and Clement's got to take most of the credit for that, because not much has changed other than him.
I think there's one hand where you want to give Swansea credit, but on the other hand, all Clement's really done is watch Liverpool this month and gone, so you just stick 10 men behind the ball, and Liverpool are really bad. Liverpool are really bad at breaking that down, and it was 2 moments from Firmino that were really good. The second goal especially was excellent, and it was I mean, from a neutral perspective, which is quite difficult when you're a Liverpool fan in this situation. Swansea looked, as you say, organised, looked good. Llorente looked sharp, and I don't really remember him seeing look that sharp in a Swansea shirt. And Sigurdsson scores a decent finish as well. I mean, defensively, Liverpool are pretty hopeless at the moment for whatever reason. It's annoying though, because Liverpool actually went through a spell where we weren't actually that bad at defending. There were just occasionally these individual errors that would be highlighted and cost us a game. Now they're costing us the point. Yeah, it is
the idea of Klopp's defending being bad. That is. And if you actually look at the numbers, it hasn't been awful until recent. Or at least
and now it is bad, and now everyone's just going to say, "Well, they've always been bad." And it's like, well, actually, no, we haven't always been bad. But this month, I would even now say we are defending horrendously, and not. I mean, basically, we saw it at the weekend, and we saw it in midweek as well. That on the counter attack, Liverpool are so exposed. It's horrendous. Doesn't matter who the back two are. It seems we're horrendously exposed. And I guess we'll come on to Liverpool now. From an offensive point of view, Jack, I don't mean.
I won't offend any viewers.
From an offensive point of view,
got to be careful, Jack. So.
I underestimated personally how big a miss Mane would be, and the question now comes is: we knew this was going to happen. We knew that Mane was going to go away for the African Cup of Nations. So why on earth didn't we buy someone to do a similar job to him?
It's a great question, isn't it? I wish I knew. I think
but a big miss though, Mane.
When I looked at the Liverpool side this year, even before kind of Mane joined, I think you were looking at a few wingers, a little bit of natural width. And Mane's kind of been that outball for the entirety of the first half of the season. Out on the right-hand side, he has the pace to pull strings. And when actually you look at the Liverpool side, there aren't that many players who you'd kind of associate as being natural wide men. Maybe Lallana could somewhat be pigeonholed in there, although certainly, in recent years and under... kind of Klopp, he's played a lot more down the middle. You look out on the left, how we've been playing, obviously it's often been Coutinho kind of floating in there. Occasionally you have kind of Wijnaldum and Emre Can kind of stepping on each other's toes out on the kind of left-hand side.
Yeah, Milner as well.
Generally quite narrow though.
Yeah, I think. And I think even after Mane came in, one worry for me actually with Liverpool was, do we have enough natural width? And obviously it's kind of weird to see Markovic now go out on loan because just Klopp doesn't think he's ready. And obviously there was kind of talk of, Sturridge can play out wide on the left. He's played there, at international level occasionally. Maybe it can work. And I think what we're seeing is that Liverpool, I don't want to say they become one-dimensional without Mane, but they lack something that I think is so key in a Premier League attack, and that is pace. Yeah. And I know that we have that to an extent, and some people go, but Sturridge has pace. The issue with Sturridge is that ever since kind of his few injuries, he never looks like he wants to just hit the ground running and, proper have kind of a really hard sprint. He always
since his big injuries, I can think of twice where I've seen him sprint, which for a striker ain't really enough. And it's interesting you said that, Jack, that you think our ability to have pace, it's in behind that is the problem. Like the idea that Liverpool lack width isn't true because Klein and Milner offer that in droves. We've got loads of it from them too. They are pushing on more than anyone. And I actually think that's part of the problem as well, that we've had sort of a semi-fit Nathaniel Klein this month as well. And when Mane's not there and Klein also isn't there, that really does expose an issue on that side. And Trent Alexander-Arnold's done pretty well. That's what's disappointing about it. So it's like he's doing well, but he doesn't offer the same confidence going forward that Nathaniel Klein has. And it ends up affecting everything, which is... Yeah,
I think another problem Liverpool are having is that it's all very good having your fullbacks be good on the overlap, but if you want to hit a team fast, the players in the wide areas have got to already be up the pitch.
Yeah.
Whereas, with the fullbacks, you're very much relying on the build-up play to happen. And the issue for Liverpool actually this year, I feel like, has been a cutting edge.
And I think an excellent example. Sorry, Jack, as you mentioned a really good point there. An excellent example of that. I thought at the weekend was Chelsea against Hull. I don't think we're going to talk about that game too much in detail, but they had a similar sort of scenario where Hull were defending really well behind the ball with 10 men, and the way that the fullbacks were pushed up for Chelsea, and it's a slightly different system, but the principle's the same, allowed them to really ping the ball from left to right instantly while they were camped outside the area, and it was that movement from left to right wing that eventually opened Hull up. And I think what you were saying, Jack, is right, that the Liverpool fullbacks are kind of coming from deep more, and they're not already there to allow players like Chandler Henderson and Coutinho to swing the ball from left to right, and that's what you need to do.
It's interesting you say that. I kind of disagree with that. I think that Milner and Klein are there, but the speed in which it goes from one side to the other, it's Klein to Shan, who then plays it to Coutinho, gives it back to Henderson, he gives it back out to Milner, and then they close the door. The teams think, okay, we'll just put 4 bodies over here, try and get through this. Oh, we can't. We'll go back the other way. So it goes into Wijnaldum, back to Shan, back to Henderson, and back out to Klein. It's like, how many times are we going to do this?
Do you think
it's infuriating?
Do you think the problem? I mean, sort of, what struck me from the Swansea game was actually in the centre of the park. Kind of bringing it back to Swansea just quickly, was that their midfield worked really well together, and I mentioned Tom Carroll at the top. He was sensational in that game, and I know he's not the player that I'm about to sort of mention, but he was so good in almost all aspects of the pitch. And you mentioned Liverpool in transition, so was Jack Cork as well, by the way. Yeah. You mentioned Liverpool in transition. Do you think that one of the reasons that Liverpool looks so shaky at the back in that kind of transition and on the counter-attack is that you don't really have a natural... I know Henderson's played in the holding role, but do you think you miss maybe an enforcer or someone like a Matic who can really break up play and shield the back two effectively?
No, because we have the ball so often. Yeah. So it's almost like we don't need that. But Henderson's really good at doing a job, which... ironically enough, this season he's not actually doing. He's not playing in a role similar to Emre Can. So if Emre Can, Wijnaldum and Henderson are kind of all doing the same thing but in different positions. So it's not like no one's providing this cutting edge. And I think Emre Can is a really talented footballer that doesn't have a role within this team. He doesn't have something he knows his job is. So he's just a good footballer on the pitch having no impact, which then... as a Liverpool fan, you look at it and go, well, what's he actually doing? He's not doing anything. And then you start to question, is he even a good player? And you know he is because you've seen him do it. And then we've got the same issue in the forward areas with Firmino, Coutinho and Lallana all essentially doing the same job. So when they're doing it and they're working together and they've got that out ball to Mane, it looks great because you know that the end result is, let's try and get Sodo in because he's rapid, essentially. When he's not there, it's, well, where's the ball going to end up? And again, we have this ridiculous sort of 70%, 80% possession stat, which doesn't mean anything, and you don't win games from it. Yeah. So
I think Liverpool's best chance of breaking down teams is actually hitting them quickly on the break. You look at Liverpool.
Yeah, but we don't have the players to do that, which is the problem.
Well, exactly, and I think that comes back to the kind of what I was actually trying to emphasise with the fullbacks. Isn't it necessarily the ball doesn't get transitioned across the pitch quick enough? It certainly could do, though, and I agree with the point about getting bogged down in the midfield. My issue actually is that you can't expect your fullbacks to be stretching, the centre backs left and right on a counter attack. Like, it very rarely happens that they're in that kind of advanced position. Whereas with a player like Mane,
you need those wingers
he will pull a centre back across and create a channel for another on-running player to run into.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is a lack of movement in the final third in the wide areas for Liverpool because very often you've got Bobby playing up top on his own. He drops deep. And then the players who run onto him are running on from in the narrow areas, whereas very often you kind of almost want to see him drop deep, but then also have the space to run into, and we've just not got the players pulling the strings in behind enough, I don't think.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up by talking about Daniel Sturridge, because he had two, there's question marks. I think you brought it up to us yesterday, that Rory Smith was tweeting out that Liverpool don't have any lot pickers. Yes, but Daniel Sturridge had 2 really good chances in that game, and it made me think, well, actually, that isn't the issue. The issue is we're just not finishing chances. And on Sturridge generally, we've been saying it for like what feels like a year now. And I think, Jack, you said last season, if a team, say West Ham came in, 25 mil, do you want him? At this point, not many Liverpool fans would go, nah, got to keep him. Because I don't know how he fits in. If he's not scoring goals, Jamie Carragher said it on Sky actually, if he's not scoring goals, what is he doing? And the answer is nothing. He's not doing a lot anyway, which is a problem for Liverpool.
I think I have to agree. I think he's probably on his way out. I think this summer, or if not in this window.
Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know where he goes, but I don't know how Klopp keeps him because I don't know what.
I think were it not for the potential sort of personnel problems that you've got right now, and maybe in case of injury for the rest of the season, I think he probably would be out this window. But
he's on a. I think the issue Liverpool might have is that if he's not scoring, then why would a team gamble on a player that's not even scoring? So if he's not, it's going to be a problem. If he's not scoring goals, what team's going to say is the value that you have him at? We'll have him. What is Daniel Sturridge's value right now? Because it seems to be based on 3 years ago, which isn't ideal for Liverpool. Anyway, they're out. Southampton go to the final as well of the EFL Cup,
which is good because I think a team like Southampton, this is the exactly kind of trophy that they should be looking to win out. That and the FA Cup, they're safely ensconced in the middle of the table, and probably won't get into Europe through the league. So why not?
They've surprised me. I think I said at the start of the season I thought they might struggle. I actually thought their manager would be the first to go, but no, he's done well.
And this isn't a Southampton section, but we mentioned in the kind of Christmas review that they'd had that bad run of form, won their last 2, so they seem to have come out of that as well.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive.
The big game of the weekend was between 2 teams that are mixed fortune so far this season. It was Manchester City 2, Spurs 2. It had everything to be a good game, and actually it turned out it was a pretty good game, a very good game actually in terms of Premier League standard. Kino, what did you make of both sides? Who do you want to pick out?
I was incredibly actually surprised and impressed by what Pep Guardiola did in this game. I thought City deserved to win. This isn't the first time this season that Spurs haven't turned up in Manchester, because they were very poor against United at Old Trafford as well.
They often are, actually. Rarely do I remember Spurs having good results away from home.
No, it's odd, but I think after the pelters that we gave City and pretty much everyone else did last weekend, after the Everton game, it took a lot of balls from Guardiola to pick one recognised sort of proper central midfielder in Yaya Toure, play him as his holding player, and then put De Bruyne and David Silva in the centre ahead of him, and essentially play like a 4-1-5 formation.
It sounds fun, doesn't it? Let's face it, that does sound fun.
But it paid off, because I think for the first half they were absolutely fantastic. The pace with which they were moving the ball. I mean, we were just talking about how slow Liverpool have moved it in recent weeks. This was like the antithesis of that. They were pinging it around. What was most impressive to me was how well they sort of bypassed Tottenham's press and got it to those five players. Instantly.
A lot of pace in that forward line as well, with Sané, Aguero and Sterling to stretch teams, and I think Spurs haven't been stretched enough this year.
One mention in terms of individuals was, as you just mentioned him, Leroy Sané. He got a goal, which was of course a keeper error, but it was good that he scored it, and it was the first time really I'd seen what he's about in a City shirt this season, because obviously he's a young kid coming to England and it's quite tough to settle in at first. And especially at a big club where you're expected to perform straight out the gate. And this was the first game where I really thought I can see where he works in this team and will work for Guardiola. I thought City were pretty unlucky overall.
Yeah. With Spurs, Peachy.
Yep.
Do we think this is the sort of game they're going to be disappointed not to win, or because of the way the game actually went? Is it the sort of game which they're going to look at and go, do you know what's the point of the Etihad? Because we kind of touched on it. City haven't been very good, and they didn't have. They had Kolarov at centre back. Interestingly, by the way, City had Kompany and Stones on the bench. You'd have probably seen Kompany risked recently, or sort of in recent seasons. You'd have seen him risk. Guardiola just went, do you know what? We'll play Kolarov, and then it paid off. But sorry, Spurs.
Going into this game, I think Spurs would have seen City as a team for the taking.
If it
hadn't perhaps been for recent form, I think this is a game that Spurs would be delighted with a 2-2 result in. And I think given actually the circumstances of the game itself, they're going to be delighted just to come away with a point at all. At the end of the day, Spurs, they will obviously be looking at a title push, but their main kind of aim this year surely is just got to be to kind of build upon last season, get third again if possible, maybe push on. I don't think many Spurs fans would have been sitting on the rooftop screaming, we're going to win the league this year.
Yeah, we kind of joke about it, but Spurs, like we joke about it with Arsenal, for example, but Spurs would love to be a Champions League team, like sort of season in, season out at the moment. That surely is still the goal. And
I think if they get it this year, I think they can almost classify themselves as that, to be honest.
Yeah, well, especially when you look at not many people actually had Spurs for top 4 this year, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think in the recent Premier League era, that kind of top 4, that kind of fallacy has kind of died off a little, but there really isn't a top 4 anymore.
Yeah.
There's probably 6. A top 6, Leicester 7. No,
Everton.
One year they were
Scarily good Crystal Palace in 18.
Scarily good.
I think that you asked whether it was a point gained. It's definitely that, because I think Pochettino will have been quite annoyed at how his team performed, really. But in terms of points gained and lost, it wasn't a loss, obviously, for Spurs, and they managed to come away with the point. I think the players that they've been most reliant upon in recent weeks, i.e. Dele Alli and also the fullbacks and Rose and Walker, who have really provided much of the sort of attacking influence on this good run of form that they've been on, were quiet generally, but Walker put in a fantastic ball for Ali for the second goal, first goal. Yeah. Sorry, and there were those little flashes of brilliance that just about managed to get something out of the game for them, and that's the kind of result that teams do need to pick up when their backs are against the wall. While it was a pretty rubbish performance, it's quite a good indictment of that team that they got the point and didn't come away with nothing.
I think the another for Spurs is going to be that going into this game, obviously City have been absolutely humbled by Everton, and Tottenham didn't really ever look like winning this game. Even at 2-2, you weren't convinced they were the team to push on, even with arguably the momentum. Obviously, they got very, very lucky with the penalty decision that
we should talk about
wasn't
that,
given. Yeah. Obviously, Raheem Sterling pushed in the back on the break by Kyle Walker. I don't know what your thoughts on it were. I mean, it's
you're seen and given, Jack. You're seen and given.
I was going to say it's one of those ones where I can't recall that many being given in the penalty area, but outside the penalty area, it's just a penalty all day. Well, I think in some ways he's disadvantaged at the fact, one, he's not gone down, and two, he's actually got the shot away. Because I think if he scuffs the ground a little bit and falls over, he probably gets it all the time. But because it almost looks, I guess, to the ref like, oh, he's shot having been pushed.
Yeah. How could he possibly be fouled if he's had a shot? It's like
it's that sort of and we've seen players punished in the past before by not getting a decision when they actually are honest and stay on their feet. There was quite an interesting little bit on Match of the Day about this with Ruud Gullit, who was like, in Europe, on the continent, players will always go down in that situation because you force the referee to make that decision. If you know that
it's worth a booking in many ways. That's how they view it.
And although, it kind of does go against the spirit of the game, Sterling, I think, as Jack said, if he had gone down then, it would have been it signalled to the linesman in a way that something had gone on. And it was the linesman's call to make in that situation.
The annoying thing is, if he doesn't shoot and then falls over and it's not given, people go, why didn't he shoot? Do you know what I mean? It's one of those double-edged swords, because you get them a lot. It's like, why has he gone down there? He was clean through. It's like, well, he's been pushed in the back.
Yeah, I should say I quite like Ruud Gullit on Match of the Day. I think he's pretty good. One little thing I think might be a concern for Pochettino. At half-time, took off Wimmer. Don't think he was injured, but obviously they started with a 3 and then went to the 4, which I find curious.
Well, we saw earlier in the year when this back 3 has been really good for them in recent weeks.
But obviously no Alderweireld,
No Vertonghen, sorry.
Vertonghen, sorry, of course.
Yeah, that was that's the big miss. And as I think we mentioned last week, Vertonghen, if they play a back 4, they can cover that. Where we see it, sort of his impact or his the impact of him not being there is when he tries to play that back 3, because Wimmer is not as accomplished a player as Vertonghen and doesn't look as comfortable in that 3.
You two were backing him last week. I'm not having this. You two said he'd be all right. I was way more concerned.
I think he can do a job for them, actually, and this is like kind of throwing a player in the deep end and hoping they can swim.
I just think that I think I said it. Go back and check it. I think that if they do play that back 4, then you can play Alderweireld and Dyer there, and it's fine, and you've still got the full-backs. Wimmer is not as good in that back three as Vertonghen because he doesn't have the pace and passing and sort of brain of almost a fullback that you need to half have in that position.
It might be daft to say, because obviously Spurs did buy him, but Pochettino's fortunate in that regard that Dyer can slot in and look pretty comfortable actually at centre-back. You wouldn't if you'd have said who's the consistent centre-back in this side, you'd have probably put Wimmer behind Dyer, and that says a lot about how good Eric Dyer is in a different position. And actually, Eric Dyer hasn't been getting as many games this year, which is curious. Because of obviously the way Dembele and Wanyama have.
I feel like almost for them last year, he was a bit of a kind of player they just plugged gaps with.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he plays full-back, plays centre-back, plays centre-mid.
Yeah. Shall we move on? Shall we do another game? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? Let's do it.
Let's keep it rolling.
Let's do it. Arsenal 2, Burnley 1. I mean, that was an interesting last 10 minutes, was it not?
I mean, that's the only reason it's at this point in the running order. Really, it was an incredibly dramatic final.
It went from a decent point to an awful result to elation for Arsenal fans. I can't imagine what it must be like.
I mean, Wenger wasn't elate though, was he?
Well, from my perspective, Jack, I went from not watching Arsenal Fan TV to definitely watching Arsenal Fan TV to just not watching Arsenal Fan TV. So didn't actually see what the Arsenal fan reaction was because you won the game, and watching sort of a set of smug Arsenal fans. Actually, I should say Arsenal fans are pretty good at that. Even when they lose, they kind of admit, oh well, we're still not very good. So I give them a little bit of credit for that. But I mean, it's just a bit of a sickener for Burnley, isn't it? It's a bit of a shame.
They've got that win
penalties,
against Liverpool, and I guess the fortunate thing here for Burnley is that if this is, a team who are 1-0 up with 10 minutes left, and they lose it, even against Arsenal, who you don't expect to win, it's the kind of result that can perhaps derail like a relegation battle, because it feels like you've just like missed such a golden opportunity. Whereas I guess for Burnley, the silver lining is, you're in mid-table. You don't look in danger of going down, at least at the moment.
6 points clear.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the kind of result that never defines a season, so they're quite fortunate in that respect.
I tell you what, though, Alexis Sanchez's Panenka penalty was quite something.
There's certain players in the Premier League, right, that as a Liverpool fan, right, I shouldn't love and appreciate, but I bloody love Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah.
He's so good. For me, he's top, I dare say top 2 in the league in terms of how good he is. He's behind probably him and Aguero, I would say. Maybe now Pogba and Ibra have sort of come into that conversation, but he does it in the Premier League week in, week out. I think he's brilliant. I wish he'd come to Liverpool instead of
there was an interesting again on Match of the Day. There was an interesting segment where Danny Murphy,
you love him,
made my feelings known on Danny Murphy, but he said something actually not mindless, so I thought I'd highlight it. When
Thanks,
I'm delighted.
I can't remember who told him this, but he said, I was always taught in that sort of situation in the 90th minute, or in a high pressure situation when you have a penalty, the keeper's always going to want to be the hero and dive. Like the keeper, it's very unlikely that he'll have the sort of balls to not move in that situation. So the penalty, although it looked incredibly sort of risky, was actually a bit more of a safe bet from Sanchez, because I think he knew that Heaton would try and make the save.
Yeah, there's one thing putting it down the middle though. There's another thing sort of dinking it down the middle, which I think go down the middle, Alexis, by all means, but to dink it down the middle, I mean, it's brave.
Didn't he do it in the Gold Cup though?
I think there's certain players that will do it more often than others, won't they? What's interesting?
Copa America. Was it the Copa America?
Might have been the Copa America for Chile.
In the final of the Copa America, he did a Panenka penalty.
Because everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, he's done it against Bern." I'm like, he did it in like an international final.
What's interesting about that though is you won't see keepers stay down the middle unless it's a penalty shootout, because they think, well, this is actually an option. I will stay down the middle for one. But how often do you actually see? I'd love it if one day a keeper just goes, "Well, I'm not going to dive," because technically, by not diving, you are picking a side there. You are picking an option. There's 3 options.
He's sitting on the fence. You're being boring.
Most of the time, if penalties down the middle do get saved, it's because they're not struck that well.
Yeah.
And the keeper, they get it with their legs or their feet. That's usually
when I took penalties behind the curtain here, just aim for the keeper's face, because he's going to dive. And
I will say to any young footballers out there, don't follow Jack's technique of aiming for the face. Sometimes it will work. Most times you'll probably blaze it over the bar. So I love that though, by the way, Jack. You've got sort of an FPS attitude to shooting penalty kicks.
My attitude was, if I miss, the chances are it's just going to go slightly off in a direction. The keeper's still not going to reach it.
So Jack, basically what you're saying is your aim at shooting penalties wasn't that good. So you thought,
what I'm
be my
saying is,
point.
Smash it down the middle, and even if you skew it up slightly, it's still going to go in. And I goes over the crossbar, in case
for
you failed.
for any young footballers, don't take this advice. It's not going to help you in later footballing life. Final game.
My one taps.
Final game to talk about over the weekend.
Be quiet.
It was, I think, is David Moyes going to get sacked soon? West Brom 2, Sunderland 0. Is David Moyes going to be sacked if they lose to Tottenham? Probably not. But is he under risk of actually going here?
He's like, I've not heard anything about him rumoured to be going, but there's no chance. Like, he must be going.
It's
like,
no. I don't think he is going. But it's amazing what he's saying at the same time, while seeming to have relatively, relative job security.
Keno, conceding goals has become a disease for Sunderland. That's a David Moyes quote, by the way. That's not me just saying.
I like to believe in training, he turns up like in a doctor's outfit. Right, we're going to get you cured. Right, get on the training ground.
On the game, right? On the game. Firstly, I really enjoyed Chris Brunt's sweetly struck. I think Chris Brunt has got one of the sweetest left foots in the Premier League. We talk about sort of a player who can strike a ball. Chris Brunt was that kid who could just not do a huge amount, but he could hit a ball really well.
He's like the slightly worse version of Snodgrass.
I'm thinking, where was Chris Brunt aim his penalties, Jack? Have you got any?
At the head.
At the head, probably. You're probably right.
Aim for the head.
If I could kick the ball as hard as Chris Brunt, though, I would aim for the head as well, because you're more likely to just have it blast through the keeper's head in that situation.
It looked fairly obvious that West Brom would actually win this game on paper if you looked at the form and how well they're playing, and of course Sunderland's record away from home. But what David Moyes said after the game was sort of what he's been saying all season, was just sort of highlighting how bad Sunderland are.
Yeah.
Like,
this is your fault, David. I don't.
When he first came in the summer, he was like,
squad's rubbish.
The squad's incredibly bad. I'm not really sure how much we're going to do this season.
That's the man you want, isn't it?
I want to know what Sunderland fans are thinking hearing this, because, as you say, there's not been a huge amount of, at least media scrutiny on Moyes in terms of his, whether he might lose his job. So I'm not really sure what they're doing or what he's doing.
I wonder what they're doing. Jack, what does Sunderland need in this window?
A new manager.
A new manager. Well, it's not good at Sunderland.
Honestly, the issue here for the Sunderland is, I look through their team, they probably need a new player in every single position except Defoe.
Quick mention for Jack Rodwell. Quick mention for Jack Rodwell. 33 games now he's appeared.
I remember when that was like 20, and thinking that's a lot of games, isn't it? It's now 30 something.
We're approaching an entire Premier League season's worth of games played without winning. In the Sunderland colours.
It's not great, is it? The issue for Jermaine Defoe is Sunderland have scored 20 goals this year. He scored 12 of them and got 2 assists.
I should say, since the start of December, Defoe has scored 4 goals and Sunderland haven't won in any of those games. That must just be a bit depressing. Yeah, he scored against Burnley, they got battered. Soon. He scored 2 against Liverpool, obviously 2 penalties against Liverpool, and he got a sort of consolation against Stoke when they lost 3-1. So actually, I'm not entirely sure. I kind of made this point before that I'm not entirely sure how much Jermaine Defoe's goals are actually helping Sunderland right now.
Is it worth they need to do?
8 million?
Jermaine Defoe needs to walk into Moyes' room and go, I need a strike partner. He's going to go, who do you want? He's going to go, I want you to bring my Toronto teammate with us. I want Altidore back.
Big man there.
Altidore's going to return and be the saviour. I don't know if he's still at Toronto now.
I thought you were going to say inform Peter Crouch with Defoe, and we could reunite sort of a Portsmouth legendary.
I'm thinking England pre-World Cup.
Yeah.
Just to provide some balance, it's worth saying that Jermaine Defoe probably has got half Sunderland's points on his own this season, but in the last sort of 10 or so games, he's not had that big of an impact, really. Shall we take a quick break? Here's a message from our sponsors, read by Jack.
Hello listeners, it's Jack here. Just to let you guys know, you can head over to classicfootballshirts.co.uk, use our referral link. It's pinned on our Twitter or in our Twitter description. It's at the top of the description if you're watching on YouTube. Go check out their retro shirts, they've got tons on offer. I'd recommend a cheeky little Raquelme shirt with Boca Juniors. Why not? Go and have a flutter. Link below.
Listeners, welcome back. There's a short break. Well done, Jack. Nice reading from you there.
Thank you.
I've made it sound like a church service.
Christmas.
Yeah, that's good. Now, this weekend, there is some Premier League action next week, which we will cover. There'll be a show sort of at the same time as this week's show, covering the Premier League action. There's some interesting games. But before we do that, let's talk about the FA Cup preview that we've got going on. There's some quite interesting fixtures. Not only sort of big games going on, but there's some nice FA Cup moments, I think.
I think there are some more interesting games in this round than there were in the last round, actually, in terms of big teams against little teams.
Yeah, and the big teams seem to be avoiding each other as well. I mean, I'll start with Liverpool. Liverpool play Wolves, Chelsea, Brentford. You've got City, Palace, Arsenal still in there, Tottenham still in there, Manchester United still in there. So the top 6 in the Premier League, first haven't met each other yet, which is always a bit surprising, and they're all still in, which could make the FA Cup very, very competitive.
I enjoy the FA Cup where you get like Arsenal v United in the third round.
Yeah, that usually does happen.
It's always good when stuff like that. I'm a bit underwhelmed by, not underwhelmed by this draw, but for the sake of an underdog, for the sake of like a Wigan getting to the final, I don't want to see all the big teams kind of getting Wickham at home.
Yeah, so, there are a few also potential upset games as well.
It's very much so.
The one that springs to mind, just looking at the list we have, is the one that actually kicks off before the rest do, which is Friday night. Leicester away at is it the iPro Stadium now at Derby County?
Still Pride Park to me.
Yeah,
always
still
will
Pride
be.
Park. But Derby are not right near the top of the Championship, but they're in pretty good form. And Leicester, of course, are in having all sorts of problems. We didn't talk about their result of the weekend, but it was a very, very poor performance away at Southampton.
Look, they're waiting for the Champions League. It's back soon. They're not interested in the league.
It's coming. Yeah,
they're not interested.
Possibly.
What was when they get relegated and win the Champions League?
Everything explodes. I mean, I'm excited for it. I don't know about anyone else. I'm excited for it. I think Derby could do this, at Derby.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I think they've got a really good chance.
Will Leicester play a weakened side, perhaps? I think we could maybe see that. Who did Leicester play, actually?
Midlands Derby, I think they might take it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, but they've got Burnley on the Tuesday. So
I think you want to beat Derby.
A game you want to win. I don't know. I'm not sure how much Ranieri will care. There's 2 games for me that stand out massively, actually. Lincoln City, Jack. You're born and bred.
Well, it's a bit awkward for me because I was born in Boston, was a Boston United fan.
Oh.
Then moved to Lincoln, where if you're from Lincoln, you'll know if you don't support Grimsby or Lincoln, you support Boston, you just scum.
To be fair, you did go to school like in Lincoln. You're a Lincolnshire boy.
I did, and I did frequently go and sit in the co-op stand.
Yeah, I
didn't think you were going to say stand after that. I did used to go and sit in the co-op.
Well, Lincoln have one very nice stand actually that runs alongside the pitch, and then they've got kind of 3 stands which look like they've been donated.
And then they've got the extra stand, which is a shed, which back in my day was the family ground. And in the second round of the FA Cup, that was empty. In the third round, all the glory support are uni fans. The turn up and go in the student stand that they have.
That would have been you. So they've got Brighton, which is not the easiest of games. It's a bit annoying, isn't it, for Lincoln? Not a sort of a superstar team, but quite a good, efficient side.
Yeah, I feel like if you're a non-league side and you get to the 4th round of the FA Cup, you just want to draw like a big team.
Yeah. I think
to be fair, Brighton, top of the Championship.
Yeah, but it's just a bit like, It's 3 o'clock on a Saturday, so it's not even on TV, which on the surface, people will look at this and go, I can't believe Lincoln, top of the conference, whatever.
Especially after their win, the last-minute winner.
But then you realise that if Lincoln didn't win the replay against Ipswich, it would have been Ipswich-Brighton on TV, and I mean, I don't know if people are going to watch that.
I'm desperately hoping for a replay in that Lincoln game because Brighton's on my doorstep.
Yeah, of course. You can go along. Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
The other interest. Who do you think then, Lincoln or Brighton? I don't know. I think Brighton probably just win it like 2-0.
I think that's the kind of one, as you said, it's at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, so that could just get lost in the rest. I think you were about to go on to the Sutton United game, which I think is on TV on the Sunday at 2 o'clock, and that will be a really good game. What's quite nice with these sort of the 2 smallest teams is that the bigger side is away at the little ground, which is always fun to watch when you see the big time players turn up.
Yeah. It is Brighton and Leeds. Steady on, the big time player, Chris Wood.
Oh come on, they're sort of I don't know how many places they are above both those teams respectively, but it's probably quite a few, probably a bigger gap than you would see, in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So it's still a pretty big game, especially a team as big as Leeds. With both of them, I'm not sure. It's so difficult to call these kinds of games, but it will be. I mean, I'm glad that Sutton, as you said, didn't get a kind of Rochdale away from home where they'll probably lose, and it won't be that good game.
Yeah.
They've got a sort of marquee tie a bit.
I think Leeds are still sort of a big name, aren't they, in football?
Yeah.
I think that's a good one for
They're doing
starting.
pretty well this year as well. Gary Monk working miracles.
He's doing very well. Although we're not a championship podcast, we should quickly on Leeds.
Well,
Leeds are on the way back, boys. I think this could be quite a special season under Gary Monk for those Leeds fans. And you know what? Chilino deserves it. So pleased for him.
does he?
No, he doesn't. But they've got Sutton obviously mid-table in the Vanarama, and then you've got Lincoln who are top of the Vanarama against Brighton who are top of the Championship. So some quite teams basically who'll be quite confident, you would think.
I feel like if Lincoln
games.
beat Brighton, then the two leagues, like all members of the league, should swap.
That'd be an awful system. So no. But I admire your optimism with your new ideas.
I'll do it in Football Manager and find out what would happen.
Middlesbrough play Accrington Stanley, which is always quite a nice one. Just to
Who are they?
good, well done.
Exactly.
Oxford away at Newcastle as well. I mean, quite a lot of bigger sides are away from home. Actually, Arsenal play Southampton. Obviously, Southampton will be on a bit of a high. Wickham have got Spurs, which is also another fun one.
Just sorry about quickly. There is one thing that does annoy me about when particularly the BBC have a chance to cover the FA Cup right on the weekends. Southampton, as you'd said, are at home to Arsenal, and it's the 5:30 game, which is the televised game.
Is it BBC?
And yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
No,
It
it's
could
not.
be
It's BT Sport.
Is it BT?
But the point still stands that
I mean, does it now?
Yes, it
Listeners,
does.
listen closely. Will it
does still
stand?
that I think one thing that sort of ruins people talk about, we don't kind of see either giant killings or kind of get that magic of the FA Cup. Well, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's not what it used to be. And I think one of the reasons for that is that the television networks now, especially the ones that don't have the Premier League sort of as a blanket coverage like Sky do, for instance, try and get try and show a Premier League game essentially.
Yeah, they do.
And I think that, if there's two kind of even middle I know Southampton and Arsenal aren't so much, but sort of two bog standard Premier League teams, if they play each other, the networks will jump on that rather than say the Sutton game, which might actually be more interesting.
Some BT Sport that game.
To be fair, actually, no, Kino's got a good point. I remember a Villa game being on last year, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Was it Sherwood's first game, maybe, when he did the old Pulse thing?
I know the one you mean. That was, we played Bournemouth at home, and it was Sherwood's first game.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, Bournemouth were in the Championship at that point, but you do see it where a network that might otherwise not always have the Premier League games just shows a game that includes two Premier League teams just because they are there. Not necessarily a game that may actually produce an interesting result or a good game. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why the FA Cup isn't as widely held in regard.
I did enjoy actually with the FA Cup. If you watch it on BBC, it's always funny because they don't.
Is it?
Like that,
It's not live at the Apollo.
Is that because of Danny Murphy?
No, well at half time, obviously the analysis usually only lasts like 7 or 8 minutes, and the rest is adverts. On the BBC, they don't have adverts, so they have kind of 15 minutes of stalling. So like in the Lincoln game,
you get that on
against
final day as well.
With Lincoln v Ipswich, they were like, right, we'll get the Lincoln assistant manager over at half time for a talk. It's like, well, he's going to be wanted in the changing room, surely. Like, come over. They kind of beckon him over and tie him down for 5 minutes.
I enjoy that when there's a real minnow team, they always interview the manager because they realise that he's got no leverage, whereas a Premier League manager can turn them down.
Yeah.
But
Do you want to be on the telly? Come on, be on the telly. Come on.
Of course.
This microphone. All right, yeah, go on. Right, Wolf, I'm on telly. Right. So I don't know whether from Yorkshire, they always are.
Yeah, I don't know. They could get away with doing that, whereas you can't otherwise get away with interviewing managers mid-game.
In my head, it's always Neil Warnock. That's why I can't
The
help
magic
it.
of the FA Cup for me is when they have a really small team and they go. It's like, right, we're going to go see Sandra, the coffee lady, at the clubhouse and see what she's doing.
Harry Redknapp's wife, Sandra. Surely not.
I mean, that's the one.
Lovely.
You mentioned the filling that occurs as well in yesteryear when obviously the FA Cup final was the biggest footballing event of the English season. The broadcast in sort of early days of TV would start like 9 or 10 in the morning, and so you would. I don't know what they would do for 6 hours before the game began because they struggle enough as it is now.
They do like let's do a football version of Mastermind. Do we stuff like that? It'd be good. Actually,
we've used that to great
let's
effect
get
on the
question
show,
of sport involved. It would be, honestly, that's what it would be. The final game to quickly mention is a repeat of the 2006 FA Cup final between Manchester United and Wigan. So Look forward to that.
On BBC, looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Want
again.
to close things out.
But that's what they'll be billing it as, listeners, so beware of that.
That's why BBC have got that one.
Do you know, we won't talk about the Premier League next Tuesday, but we should say that Liverpool do play Chelsea, so that will be interesting either way.
Big game.
Indeed.
I wonder if it'll get a funny sort of, blue-red Tuesday name.
Blue Red
like
Tuesday. It'll be now. Go off to
They love
combine
their
it, so it'll be
Budweiser.
Purple Tuesday.
Purple Tuesday.
Look forward to Purple Tuesday. Purple Tuesday. Right. I think, listeners and gentlemen, that brings us to the end. Jack, I feel like you've got one more thing to say.
Listeners' questions.
Oh, of
We actually
course.
asked
Sorry,
some.
listeners' questions. It's been a while, hasn't it? That's what I forgot,
Disrespecting
Jack.
the listeners. I'm here
Sorry.
to
Ben
rep
almost
them.
played you there. Ben almost played you.
You know, he
He
asked
was
for
the one
your
who tweeted
questions,
out.
then
Well-
throws you away.
While Keno gets up the questions to read
okay.
to me and Jack.
Okay.
Jack,
I've got
you
some.
saw an article this week, or you've seen an article
I did.
that you want to talk about, and I
Well,
think you've got a platform. This is the
I've
only place you
got
get to
a
talk
plug.
about it, so get it out
Well,
there.
basically, if you don't know, in England it's been quite cold recently, and England doesn't really deal with the cold. There was a non-league team whose game was called off
Or
after
any weather.
15
Any
minutes. Pretty much. You know, if it's too sunny, it's like everyone get your parasol out.
Yeah,
But
that's pretty cool.
there was a non-league team in London, and their pitch froze mid-game, so they had to call off the match. I was reading, obviously,
I've seen this.
about stories of like yesteryear about winter kind of impacting football, and there was someone who's like, oh, back in my day we would have played this. I was like, what was their day? Turns out, I'm trying to find out which summer it was now. It was a number of years ago. There were 15-foot snowdrifts, and essentially football wasn't played for 2 months in England. Over Christmas it kind of hit.
It was 63, Jack.
60, thank you.
No problem.
And I was just reading a great story about Norwich, who were trying to reschedule their game against Blackpool at home, which had been postponed 11 times over 2 months. And they decided to get flamethrowers out and try and defrost the pitch. I kind of feel like that in itself should have been how the game was played,
Can
which
I-
team could defrost their pitch the quickest.
Can I read it as written, Jack?
Please do.
It says, but it was actually going to sort of talked about all the issues that have had sort of inefficient issues or inefficient solutions to defrost the pitch. And then it comes to, but it was actually Norwich who attempted unsuccessfully to defrost their home pitch playing surface with fire. I just like the way that's written. Their scheduled FA Cup third round tie at home to Blackpool had been postponed 11 times.
I love that. It's just like, right, should we play this game?
Get the fire out.
We spoke about the English winter break. They were trailblazing. With
The
this.
thing
Like,
is, though,
this
this should be prepped for the Qatar World Cup. They should look at this as a model for how we can adjust.
Well, it says here, the Carrow pitch was treated with flamethrowers on the 22nd of January, as according to a Norwich spokesperson, as a last desperate effort. However, they served no purpose whatsoever, for a fast as the ice melted, it froze again. An icebreaker was also used, but it proved to be ineffective. I just like...
Speaking of...
So that, I should say, that does answer the age-old questions. How many games does it take to postpone until we bring out the fire? The answer is 11. So hopefully we see that one day again. Bring out the fire.
Speaking of ice
Can I just say,
eliminations-
this was the 60s. That could have gone so horrendously wrong, but they just burned down Carrow Road. What are we trying to do? We're just trying to defrost the pitch. How do you control fire?
Would you burn down Carrow Road, Ben?
No, absolutely not. It's a staple of English football.
Speaking of frosty relations, actually, this is a good segue, boys, onto the Twitter questions.
Lovely.
Here.
Hashtag.
Can I just say one more thing? I've got to.
Oh my God, Jack, you've ruined... Jack does this all the time and ruined the
Halifax
fantastic
during
segue.
this kind of freeze, they turned their football pitch into an ice skating rink for the community and made money off it.
I like that.
That's how Halifax
Jack, rarely
dealt
do
with
I
the
like you
freeze.
interrupted, Jack, but that was worth it. Callum, Twitter questions.
Did you guys see the... I know I'm shoehorning into Master Villa chat, but it's quite funny.
No.
What do you guys think of Ross McCormack and his problems?
What's happened to Ross
Because,
McCormack, you know?
Well, he's had some problems with climbing over a gate. And Nilson Cardozo1 on Twitter asked out for the fan show, didn't sort of just say it, but he just said the Ross McCormack situation. So, I mean, we could talk about
I
that.
feel like you know it way more
Because-
than we did.
Yeah, what happened when he climbed over the... I'm trying to imagine, did he pull his hamstring?
Well, no,
groin?
he didn't, Jack. It didn't happen because he... I'm not sure what day it was last week, but he called up Steve Bruce. Apparently he'd been missing a few training sessions. Ross McCormack calls up Steve Bruce, and the latest excuse today is that the electric gates on his house have broken, and he wasn't able to get outside to get to training.
What?
I should preface this by saying that the fence around his house was reported to be about 4'6".
Excellent.
So it wasn't a high fence.
Get a ladder, Ross. Get a ladder.
And instead of, just accepting, the answer,
Imagine if he frog marched round his house, like a headmaster going to a canoe skiving.
Steve Bruce then drove round to the McCormack residence, possibly stopping by in a kebab shop, if you believe the reports on Twitter.
No, it's not reports, Kate. It's a bloody picture, mate. Him and Alex Bruce loving it.
But I mean, that could have been on the way to Ross McCormack's house.
Without telling me any more, I've got this image of Brucey dangling bits of doner kebab, trying to entice Ross over the wall. Come on.
Well, Jack, if you'd seen the size of Ross McCormack, you may think that is a possibility. I mean, it could potentially work because he obviously had trouble climbing over the fence, wasn't able to get to training, and has now been frozen out of first team training for the last week.
What I would love is that I'd love to see a report or just a picture in a paper of Ross McCormack attempting to scale the fence. That would have been a lovely picture.
Can we just remind ourselves how much was Ross McCormack? And also, I enjoy the fact I've typed in Ross McCormack on Google search. The second recommended thing is Gates.
Oh, that's the second time we tried that today. That's the first time it was the feature.
Ross McCormack was 12 million.
Wow, that's a lot of Gates. Right. Have we got any other more questions, Keno?
Yeah, more Twitter questions. Sorry, I just thought that was too good to.
I hope there's no more Villa-related ones because we've now had our Villa segment for the month.
It's quite difficult for the news to report Gate incidents because they can't call it Gate, can they? It just won't sound good.
That was the quoted name, but I thought that. It's pretty good. Let's see, what else have we got here? Alexander Leonhardt. Wow.
Oh, lovely name.
Fantasy name. If that's your real name, that's pretty
cool.
What
was Richard III like? What word?
At For the Fans Show, teams who... he just says, I'll read it verbatim. Team who need to spend on player in January.
Sunderland, all of the players.
It's to the point, isn't it? Sunderland.
Yeah, Sunderland. All of the players.
Anyone else? Maybe I would actually say a team like Watford who have looked a little bit stale. We didn't talk about an amazing moment in the Watford-Bournemouth game also when Martin Cavaselli, who had scored their goal, decided to go down with cramp while Bournemouth were on the edge of the Watford box. Did you see that?
And then he rolled back onto the pitch. He was off the pitch, rolled onto the pitch, and then was annoyed the play wasn't stopped.
Jack, you've mixed up two stories there because that was Crystal Palace's Jeffrey Schlupp.
Oh,
he tried to roll back onto the
there
pitch.
were lots of fake injuries.
To be fair, Palace, if you go down Palace, you will be able to use the go in, schlupp, if you do end up getting red again, which I've used in a Football Manager save once.
I think Hull have to spend, because if they've lost Snodgrass and they've already lost Livermore, that's £20 million worth of players.
And we should say at time of recording, Hull have accepted a bid of £10 million from West Ham, I think, for Snodgrass.
And Burnley.
And Borough.
And Burnley as well.
And Middlesbrough
There's a few
as well.
teams that all got in.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like they've smelt the release clause and gone, right.
Yeah. They're all trying to pile into...
I actually believe how it works is Burnley had an offer accepted, then all the other teams went, so that's how much he'll be.
Actually, speaking of Borough, apparently they want Jesse Rodriguez from PSG.
That's what I saw as well.
That's apparently actually happening, which would be fantastic.
Bojan went to Stoke, so I'm not going to write anything out.
Niang's gone to Watford on loan from Milan as well, hasn't he? And they can actually buy him apparently for 13 or something. Which
I think 12 or 13 million is the clause.
It's all kicking off. It's all kicking off. Any more questions, Kino? Go on, give us one more.
Let's see if we've got one more. There's quite a few about China. Did we address China last week?
I don't know, did we?
So Mark Tucker asked, if you were a footballer playing in the Premier League and big money China came a-knocking, would you go? Why or why not?
If I was Morton goalkeeper, maybe.
No.
Yes.
If I'm any footballer and they say 30 million, I'll say when, and then I'm there. It
actually annoyed me a bit with the Diego Costa one, because people don't seem to realise Diego Costa, he's not actually that young, and he hasn't played at the highest level for that many years, really, compared to some footballers. He got his big break, obviously, into the Atletico first team.
I mean, he does earn 200 grand a week, so he's doing all right.
But but unlike, say, a player like, I don't know, Messi, who's been earning ridiculous money from the age of 19, he's a few years out. And if the kind of money that they're talking, like Tevez, is it 80 grand a day or something?
Yeah.
That's higher than the average Premier League wage.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I would probably go.
To be fair. Yeah, I think I agree with you on that.
It's horrible, but if you're saying 30 million a year,
I think it would depend on my circumstances as well.
It was summed up.
You just bought a bungalow that you really enjoyed. You think, I've just bought a house. Son of it, I could move.
If I was going to buy a bungalow, roof conversion would be my first of my worries. I'd be like, right, you've got to let me finish my roof conversion before I come to China.
the China situation, I can't remember who I saw write this, but it was summed up quite well by the fact that, you know, footballers who are earning X amount of money in the Premier League, let's say £150,000 a week, that guarantees a certain lifestyle for you and your children for the rest of your life.
And your children's children and your children's
well,
children.
The kind of money that you could get in China would guarantee that lifestyle for your children's children. Yeah. And for, you know, we mentioned that a lot of Brazilian players are going over there. For many who have made players all over, you know, who might not have come from the most wealthy of backgrounds, that is a proposition.
Yeah.
When you're thinking of, you know, guaranteeing your grandchildren's future, that is often too big to turn down.
Yeah.
It did annoy me, the people who laid into Tevez. I'm sat there thinking, what is he, 35, 36 now? Because obviously he'd gone back to Boca and been like, oh, it's so good to be home, I'm never going to leave again.
Oh, China.
I'm not being funny. If China came, like, you can't hate him for going to China at the age he's at as well. Although I enjoy, I don't know if you've seen the clip of him arriving in China.
Yeah, he's just getting mobbed.
The Chinese accent is quite distant. They can't very well pronounce the word Carlos.
Jack, careful.
Well, no. It's kind of just funny. Like,
Jack, although this is a true story, I almost want to say allegedly, just in case what you're about to do.
Well, it was kind of interesting to see how much he got mobbed as well, because he is like
we've already had to edit out one bit of
a poster boy.
Podcast.
The thing is, when is too much for China? Like, when do they stop? Like, is the bubble going to burst, or are they just going to keep going mad?
It's interesting that we saw. I think we did mention this last week briefly. The fact that now the Chinese government have put a limit on how many foreign players from next season Chinese Super League teams will be able to have in their starting 11s. Did we talk about this last week? I think we talked about it last week, and I explained that rule's actually been there for a while. The rule's just changed now, so it's 4 foreign players, whereas before it was 3 foreign players, but you're also allowed 1 Asian player. In which case we probably did. Let's move on. Other than that, I think
you weren't listening to my facts.
Just a few shout-outs of people that tweeted us. Will at ChelseaBoy12391 asked, what does Emre Can offer to Liverpool? Answered it.
I did it.
Opinions on Sunderland were a few from Jamie FFS Villainer. Opinions on Sunderland.
Did a bit of that.
Tom FFC Tom writes in about Daniel Sturridge and why Shane Long is better than him. We almost kind of said that by assessing Daniel Sturridge. And I think that's pretty much it. A lot of Liverpool stuff, a lot of Klopp stuff.
We'll talk next week about the African Cup of Nations as well, because that'll be coming to a conclusion soon.
We will do. And it's got kind of interesting.
I haven't watched any of the African Cup of Nations.
Okay, listeners, maybe we won't be. Thanks for listening.
You've got a week to do so.
I'll research and rewatch every game.
Indeed. Thank you for listening this week. If you've enjoyed the show, do check us out on iTunes as well. We are For The Fans Show. ForTheFansShow.com for all the available links. On Twitter at For The Fans Show. And if you've watched on YouTube, do leave a like on the video. We always appreciate it. That's youtube.com/ForTheFansShow. Jack, pleasure as always.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Callum, it was enjoyable.
It started quite badly with the feature. But
great feature. Next week's feature will be very similar. So just
thanks, everyone.
Keep an eye out. And from me, Ben, with love, with care, from us at For The Fans, we'll see you again next week. Goodbye. Come on, Sutton. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Sutton win.
Yeah.
Oh, we enjoy it. So, no offence to Leeds fans. It's just... Jack, do you want to offend anyone else before we go? Or
Brighton.
End it right now.